With a second wave of restrictions and lockdowns on their way, how do you prepare for round 2 of the SHTF scenario we've all been dealing with for the last few months? Well, stick around for the rest of the video. We'll talk about ways you can prepare for this next wave that's coming and how you're going to get out on the other side of it better off than you were before. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're going to talk about the second round of SHTF that's on its way. We all have talked about a second wave of the pandemic hitting, but the second wave isn't just about the pandemic. It's about the lockdowns, the restrictions, the financial implications, the economic implications. Everything related to what this pandemic has created is coming around again for round number 2. And when you're talking about preparing for SHTF scenarios, we have to see what has already happened and expect it to amplify the second time around because people are still not recovered from this first initial wave. So if you're working on trying to recover from the first wave, or you want to make sure you're ready for whatever SHTF stuff might happen during round 2, hit the subscribe button below so that way we can keep preparing together and I can keep trying to get the message out to as many of you as I can so we can try to make sure that on the other side of this thing, we're all better off than we were before, okay? So, some of the biggest things that we have to watch out for during round 2 of this SHTF scenario is the fact that things will be amplified. People will be a little bit quicker to react to whatever it is that comes their way because they've already been burned once. And once you've been burned once, you know, the second time around has a quicker reaction time because you don't want it to happen again. And that's what we're going to witness. So the things I'm going to talk about today in the video are just to help you kind of mentally prepare yourself for what's to come and to try to give you some guidance on what you have to watch out for when it comes to your preps and what it is you're trying to put together during round 2. Okay, so one of the first things you have to watch out for, and it's something that we might all be a little bit guilty of, especially because of the fact that everything calmed down a little bit, but you have to maintain your food supply. You have to maintain your food stock. Back in March, people went out and they bought a ton of stuff at the grocery stores, okay? The grocery stores were packed. You couldn't wait in line for less than an hour sometimes, depending on where you were, and it was out of control. People were dragging 2, 3, 4 carts around the store, filling up on food to make sure they could get through whatever was coming their way. And there was a lot of unknown at that time, so people felt the need to have a lot of extra preparedness items sitting around their house, and food was top priority for many good reasons. However, a lot of people have gone back into their food pantries and started to eat a lot of that food that they bought back in March because they either are still recovering financially from everything else that happened or from how much they spent when trying to prepare for this situation, or because they have so much food in their house they don't feel the need to go get more and they feel like things are getting better, so we might as well just start eating some of this food instead of just letting it sit there. I understand the reasoning behind that and I understand why people might feel that way, but you can't do it. You gotta keep getting more food on top of what you already had before. If you're dipping into your food stockpile right now, you're actually going to hurt yourself in the long run because you're going to need that food eventually when it gets more and more expensive. So basically what you're doing is you're eating cheaper food that you spent less money on than how much it's going to cost 6 months from now, and you're not going to have as much of it the next time things get worse. And if a second wave hits to the point where there's even stricter lockdowns or restrictions in place, whether or not you decide to follow them, that is going to be harder to get and acquire at that point in time, that same amount of food that you cached away 3 months ago. So maintain your food supply and you'll do a better job of getting through round 2 of SHTF. Another thing that you need to be aware of and keep in mind is you need to acquire your security items and more ammunition, okay? So here's the thing. Ammo is facing another shortage. It's already gone through basically 2 waves of shortages at this point. And if you don't have a firearm yet, but you're planning on getting one, or you have firearms but you're not really happy with your ammo supply, you have to be acting right now. I'm still able to find ammo occasionally, and your best bet's gonna be your local gun store, not your big box stores. Those get cleared out first. If you're talking about your Walmarts, your Sportsman's Warehouse, your Bass Pro Shops, any of those places, they're gonna be hit first because they're generally known to be the place to go get those items on the cheap, and it's where the average person will go because they haven't really explored some of their other more local, smaller business related options. So support your local gun store, go in there, get your ammunition there. And I will tell you right now that if I go to Sportsman's Warehouse near me, it's very limited on the amount of 9mm, of course, and 223 and 556 and everything else related to what people like to prepare. But if I go to my local gun store, they are good to go, and they usually have at least some options for me, whether or not they're higher end premium grade hollow points or whether or not they are steel case Tula style ammunition. Either way, they at least have options. So make sure you check your local gun store, because not every single person goes to those places. A lot of people do shop big box stores, and those are the people you're going to avoid, and you're going to basically capitalize on their lack of knowledge of what's around them and what they're able to purchase because they're not going to their local gun stores. So get your security now. If you don't have a firearm, now's the time to buy. There's a shortage of 9mm handguns nationwide. It's harder and harder to get AR parts and harder to build ARs because it just is. People are all trying to make sure they're well secured and able to provide for themselves. So if you're not in that position right now, make sure you put yourself in that position, okay? So get more ammunition while you can. Be selective about the type of ammunition that you're running. And if it's something where you have to make the decision right now to buy a handgun, and maybe your option is 40 caliber over 9. I do not like 40 caliber. That's just me. But right now it's a lot easier to buy 40 than it is 9mm. So some of those options might be out there that you might have to decide on based on what's available rather than what you want right now. Okay? So wanted to make sure you're aware of that. Get what you need now, so that on the back end of this thing, you're not scrambling to figure out how to protect yourself and how to take care of your family in case things get worse. Conflict is definitely happening around the country, and we can only expect it to escalate the closer we get to November. And the way our tensions are right now in this country, you don't know when they might be at your front door, and you might have to defend yourself. As we've seen in many videos and things that are out in the press right now, people sometimes show up and you're not ready for it, and it's not a good feeling to have. So make sure you put that away now, especially if you haven't been there already, okay? So how else do you prepare for round 2 of SHTF? Well, make sure you have your financials in order, okay? You need to make sure that you have other supplies of income. Right now, this is just my opinion, and I feel like a lot of us share this opinion, but your job, no matter what you do in this country right now, is probably not as secure as it's ever been, okay? It's probably the least stable job-related economy that we've ever had, because right now companies are making tough decisions and people are having to rearrange their business model based on adapting to everything that's happening. So find other ways to earn income. Get additional income streams. Find that supplemental source that you can at least try to rely on or help get you through if you ever find yourself unemployed, and if you ever find yourself making less money than you used to, or whatever that might be, because it's very important. And today's economy is moving and transitioning. So you need to be able to get another source of income if possible, okay? Try your best and save money when you can, okay? I know I'm telling you, make sure you get more food, make sure you get more ammo, make sure you get more firearms. But those are things that I find extremely important, because without those, it doesn't matter if you have money or not, you're gonna find yourself in a bad situation. But when you can, you need to be saving, and you need to make sure you have some money put away, so if things get worse, you can get through it without completely drowning on day one, okay? So try your best to figure that out. And there's a lot of ways to earn supplemental income. There's a lot of ways to earn additional revenue, but you gotta do the research and you gotta put in the legwork, because it's not the easiest thing to do. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and be one of those guys you see on the ads who tell you that you can make $1 million in the first 30 days if you just follow their advice. It's usually BS, and the reason is because it's not easy to earn income. That's just the whole point. Working is not easy. So make sure you figure out other ways to earn additional revenue while this is all going on, okay? The instability is there. You need to be prepared for maybe losing that source of income that you rely on right now, okay? So if you're prepared for that, you have more income coming in, and you have other ways to adapt for if you lose your job or you find yourself unemployed or whatever that might be. 6 months from now, after round 2 of SHTF, you're gonna be in a lot better position than you were before, okay? So another part of that related to our current economic situation is the transition of online business, okay? Online ordering and online business, e-commerce, everything is moving to that platform because it's the only real thing that wasn't quite interrupted during the pandemic, and it's something that you can capitalize on and you can work on if you put the time and effort into it now. So I also mean that when it comes to being a consumer, try to make sure you're supporting your local businesses and support the small businesses when you can. But when you're talking about items you can't just easily go purchase. For example, a 450 Bushmaster 10.5-inch barrel. Not something I can easily just walk down to my store, no matter where I am, and just pick one up. So if you're talking about acquiring items that you want or that you need for specific purposes, then make sure you're placing those online orders and make sure you're transitioning as much of your business as you can to online when it's not related to supporting a local small business, okay? Because I still find that extremely important. I think you guys need to support those SBAs that are out there, okay? SBAs, the small businesses are part of the SBA most likely, but all I'm saying is that we need to make sure that we keep Americans employed and we keep people going to work, and by supporting small businesses, you're doing just that. If you're gonna go shop at a big box store, then why not just place the orders online, have them delivered to your home, mitigate the risk of travel, mitigate the cost of fuel, and make sure that you then get what you need when it's especially a specialized item that you can't otherwise acquire, okay? So start transitioning now. Make sure you're making those moves because everybody's doing it. Even those small businesses that we need to support, they're also transitioning to e-commerce platforms as well because that is where we're heading, okay? So make sure you're doing what you can when it comes to that right now, okay? So another thing you need to prepare for that a lot of us weren't prepared for in the beginning of this whole situation was the PPE. Get your personal protective equipment now while it's still available. If you go to stores like Walmart right now, they have cloth masks for sale these days just right there in the store. It's an oddity and it's strange, but it's true. You can buy those things now. So if you wait till all of the lockdowns come back, you wait till further restrictions, whether or not you agree with the mandate of having to wear PPE or not, if you have to operate under the restrictions that are being put forth, and if you don't, you're not able to operate in the way you need to, then these are things you might have to have. So make sure you at least acquire them so that if you have to use them, they're available to you. Because a lot of us realized very quickly back in March that there wasn't enough of a supply. And there still probably isn't. But you know what? It's available right now just because people aren't buying it anymore. Don't be the people who aren't buying things anymore just because it feels like we're better off now than we were. Make sure you have what you need, and then don't find yourself 6 months from now wondering why you didn't pick more up while it was still available in the store, okay? And this is definitely related to things like latex gloves. This is definitely related to things like even a hazmat suit. Something like that could be very important to have at some point. So if you can get it now, you might as well, because you know it was definitely hard to find when things were tough, okay? So the other thing I'm gonna say about how you can prepare yourself for this round 2 of SHTF scenarios and everything else that's going on in the world, especially when it comes to the pandemic and conflict that we're seeing around the country right now, is that you can go out right now while you might not be under lockdown, although some of you might be. While you're not under lockdown, if you feel safe about it and it's something you find important, that I find important, now is the time to go out and get more training, okay? Get the training before you're not able to again, because the second wave is on its way, whether or not everything's, exactly what they say it is. This second wave of whatever you want to call it, lockdowns, pandemic, restrictions, whatever it might be, it's coming. And if you don't have proper firearm training, or if you don't have good survival skills or knowledge, or things that could definitely help keep you alive during this whole situation, try to get that now while it's still available. Try to get it now while you're not locked down. See what you can do to put yourself ahead, okay? And get the skills and the knowledge and the training you can while it's available. Because once things are locked down again, you won't be able to go out and learn how to use that new firearm you just purchased. You won't be able to go out and learn how to make fire without any tools. There's not as many ways to go out and do those things. Yes, you can learn by watching videos and by reading, and that's great, but you need that real life in-person experience to really understand how these things work and to get basically a feel of how you're going to be able to operate under those kinds of conditions, okay? So very important that you get training and that you get the skills you need now while you're not locked down, so you can better yourself for that second round of SHTF that's on its way. So this is my advice. These are just things I wanted to touch base on. Of course, there's a lot of other things you could do as well. There's a lot of things you could prepare. If you have other ideas of things you should be doing right now to prepare yourself for the second wave of SHTF scenarios, let me know in the comments below, okay? Because I definitely feel like I learn a lot from you all, and I don't always get to respond to every single comment, but I do get to at least read them and see them, and a lot of times I see things that give me great ideas about things I could be doing better. So you should look through the comments as well, because there's a lot of great interaction in them, and there's a lot of great advice. So make sure you leave comments, make sure you ask questions if you have them, and just try your best to stage yourself to be prepared to get through this round 2, so then on the other side of it, you can be better off, because right now is the time, while you still have the little bit of time that's left, to keep preparing and keep putting yourself forward, okay? So if you have any questions for me at all, let me know, and that's gonna be it for Magic Prep.